Your child just said, "I'm not good at anything," or "nobody likes me," or "I'm stupid." Your heart breaks hearing those words, and your instinct is to immediately reassure them. That's not true. You're amazing. But here's what most parents don't realize. That well-meaning response might actually be making things worse. Because self-esteem isn't built through empty praise or constant reassurance. It's built through something much more powerful that most parents completely overlook. Low self-esteem in childhood doesn't just affect grades or friendships. It becomes the foundation for anxiety, depression, unhealthy relationships, and chronic self-doubt in adulthood. Research from the American Psychological Association shows that self-esteem established during childhood and adolescence tends to remain relatively stable throughout life. The child who believes they're not good enough today becomes the adult who sabotages opportunities, settles for less than they deserve, and struggles with imposter syndrome decades later. But here's the hopeful truth. Self-esteem can be intentionally cultivated. It's not fixed by genetics or circumstance. It's built through specific experiences, messages, and interactions that parents can provide consistently. And when you understand the real science of self-esteem development, you'll realize that much of what our culture promotes as building confidence actually undermines it. Today, I'm going to reveal the research-backed framework for building genuine, lasting self-esteem in children from toddlers to teens. You'll discover why participation trophies and constant praise backfire, learn the crucial difference between self-esteem and self-confidence, and get specific strategies you can implement starting today that actually work to create children who genuinely believe in their own worth and capability. If you're tired of watching your child struggle with self-doubt and you're ready to give them the gift of authentic self-worth that will serve them for a lifetime, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We share science-based parenting strategies every week that go beyond quick fixes to build the emotional and psychological foundations that truly matter for children's long-term well-being. Before we dive into the strategies, we need to understand what self-esteem actually is, because most people confuse it with related but different concepts. Self-esteem is the internal sense of your own worth as a person, independent of achievements, appearance, or others' opinions. It's the deep belief that I am valuable and worthy of love and respect simply because I exist, not because of what I do or how I perform. This is different from self-confidence, which is belief in your ability to accomplish specific tasks. You can have high confidence in your math skills, but low self-esteem as a person. It's also different from self-concept, which is simply how you describe yourself, and it's different from narcissism, which is an inflated, fragile sense of superiority that requires constant external validation. Healthy self-esteem is stable, realistic, and internal. Children with healthy self-esteem don't need to be the best at everything or constantly praised to feel okay about themselves. They can acknowledge both strengths and weaknesses without either inflating or deflating their overall sense of worth. The first foundational strategy for building self-esteem is providing unconditional love and acceptance. This sounds obvious, but most parents accidentally make their love feel conditional without realizing it. When we're more affectionate, engaged, or proud, when our children succeed versus when they fail, we're teaching them that their worth depends on performance. When we express disappointment in them as people, rather than in specific behaviors, we're communicating that our love has conditions. Children develop self-esteem by internalizing how their most important people see them. If you consistently communicate through words and actions that your love, respect, and delight in them is constant regardless of grades, behavior, achievements, or how easy they are to parent, they internalize, "I am inherently worthy." If your warmth and approval fluctuate based on their performance, they internalize, "I'm only worthy when I meet expectations." This means separating your child's worth from their actions. When your daughter fails a test, instead of, "I'm disappointed in you," say, "I'm disappointed that this test didn't go well." That must feel frustrating. You're still the same wonderful person you were yesterday, and we'll figure out what support you need. When your son misbehaves, instead of "you're being bad," say, "that behavior isn't acceptable, and I still love you completely." Let's talk about better choices. The second foundational strategy is giving your child meaningful responsibilities and competence, building opportunities. Self-esteem research consistently shows that children who contribute meaningfully to their families and communities develop stronger self-worth than those who are constantly served. When children do things that matter, they internalize, "I am capable and my contributions have value." This is the opposite of what many modern parents do. We've created childhoods where kids are consumers of services rather than contributors to the family system. We do their laundry, make their meals, clean up after them, manage their schedules, and solve their problems, all while praising them for minimal effort. Then we wonder why they lack self-esteem. It's because praise without genuine contribution creates hollow confidence, not real self-worth. Instead, give age-appropriate responsibilities that genuinely help the family. A 4-year-old can set the table, feed pets, and put away groceries. An 8-year-old can do their own laundry, pack their lunch, and care for younger siblings. A 12-year-old can cook meals, manage their own schedule, and contribute to household maintenance. A 16-year-old can hold a job, manage money, and make significant decisions about their own life. The key is that these aren't busy work or arbitrary chores to teach responsibility. They're genuine contributions that matter to family functioning. When your child knows that their effort makes a real difference, that things wouldn't get done without them, that they're a valued contributing member rather than just a recipient of care, their self-esteem grows from authentic competence. The third foundational strategy is mastery experiences through appropriate challenge. Self-esteem doesn't come from being told you're great. It comes from doing hard things and succeeding through your own effort. Dr. Albert Bandura's research on self-efficacy shows that the most powerful source of confidence is personal mastery experiences, not praise or observation of others. This means you need to regularly let your child struggle with tasks that are challenging but achievable. Not so easy that success is meaningless, and not so hard that failure is guaranteed, but right at the edge of their current capability. When they persist through difficulty and eventually succeed, they build genuine self-esteem rooted in evidence of their own capability. Parents often make two mistakes with challenge. Either they remove all difficulty to protect their child from failure, which prevents mastery experiences, or they push challenges that are too advanced, creating discouragement. The sweet spot is what psychologists call the zone of proximal development. Tasks your child can accomplish with effort but not easily. A puzzle that's slightly too hard. A skill that requires practice and persistence. A responsibility that stretches them just beyond their current comfort zone. When your child masters these appropriately challenging tasks through their own effort, they develop what's called earned self-esteem, confidence rooted in real competence rather than empty praise. They think, "I worked hard and figured it out. I'm capable." This internal evidence of capability is far more powerful than any external reassurance you could provide. The fourth strategy is using effective praise strategically. Not all praise builds self-esteem. In fact, certain types of praise actively undermine it. Dr. Carol Dweck's research on mindset reveals that praising children for traits they can't control, like intelligence or talent, creates fragile self-esteem that collapses when challenges arise. When you say you're so smart, children learn that their worth depends on being smart, so they avoid challenges that might reveal they're not. Instead, praise specific effort, strategies, and improvement. I noticed you tried 3 different approaches when the first one didn't work. That persistence is impressive. You studied every day this week instead of cramming the night before. That strategy really paid off. This essay shows so much improvement from your last one in how you supported your arguments. This type of praise is specific, focused on things within the child's control, and emphasizes the process rather than the person. It teaches children that their worth comes from effort and growth, not from fixed traits or outcomes. It also makes praise credible rather than empty. Children know when praise is generic and meaningless, and it doesn't build real self-esteem. The fifth strategy is teaching your child how to handle failure productively. Children with high self-esteem aren't those who never fail. They're those who've learned that failure is information, not identity. They can separate "I failed at this specific thing" from "I am a failure as a person." This distinction is crucial for healthy self-esteem. When your child experiences failure or makes mistakes, your response teaches them how to interpret these experiences. If you become disappointed, anxious, or jump in to fix everything, they learn that failure is catastrophic and threatens their worth. If you dismiss the failure with "it doesn't matter," or immediately redirect to successes, they learn to avoid confronting and learning from difficulties. Instead, acknowledge the disappointment while maintaining perspective. You're really disappointed about not making the team. That's understandable. You worked hard. This doesn't say anything about your worth or even your overall soccer ability. It says that this particular team had limited spots and tough competition. What do you think you learned from trying out? What might you work on if you want to try again next year? This approach validates their feelings, separates the outcome from their identity, and moves toward growth and learning. Over time, children internalize this process and develop resilience that's foundational to self-esteem. They learn, "I can handle setbacks, learn from them, and keep moving forward." The sixth strategy is building emotional competence and self-awareness. Children with high self-esteem understand their own emotions, can express them appropriately, and don't feel shame about their inner experiences. They know that having feelings, even difficult ones, doesn't make them weak or broken. Help your child develop emotional literacy by naming feelings throughout the day. You seem frustrated that your tower keeps falling. Frustration is that feeling when something isn't working the way you want. I can see you're excited about your friend coming over. Your body has lots of happy energy. This teaches children to recognize and articulate their internal experiences, which builds self-awareness and self-acceptance. Also validate all emotions while guiding behavior. It's okay to feel angry. Anger is a normal feeling, and it's not okay to hit when you're angry. Let's find other ways to show that feeling. This teaches children that their emotional experiences are acceptable and don't diminish their worth, even when certain behaviors need to change. Children who feel shame about their emotions develop poor self-esteem because they believe something is fundamentally wrong with them. The seventh strategy is modeling healthy self-esteem yourself. Children learn more from what they observe than what they're told. If you constantly criticize yourself, apologize for your appearance, downplay your achievements, or speak negatively about your worth, your children absorb this as the template for self-perception. If you never acknowledge mistakes or act defensively when criticized, they learn that self-worth is fragile and must be protected through denial. Instead, demonstrate balanced self-regard. Acknowledge both strengths and areas for growth without either inflating or deflating your worth. I'm really good at organization and planning. I struggle more with spontaneity and flexibility. Both are just parts of who I am. Show that you can accept compliments graciously without dismissing them, and criticism without collapsing or becoming defensive. Also model how you respond to your own failures. I made a mistake in that meeting today. I felt embarrassed, but mistakes don't define my competence. I'll think about what I learned and do better next time. This teaches your child that self-esteem remains intact through setbacks because worth isn't dependent on perfection. The eighth strategy is supporting healthy peer relationships while maintaining family as the primary source of worth. During middle childhood, and especially adolescence, peer relationships become increasingly important for identity development. Children need to learn to navigate friendships, handle social conflict, and find their place in peer groups. However, children who derive all their self-worth from peer acceptance develop fragile self-esteem that fluctuates with social dynamics. Help your child build social skills while emphasizing that their worth isn't determined by popularity or others' opinions. When they're excluded or face friendship conflict, validate the pain while maintaining perspective. It really hurts when friends leave you out. That feeling is valid, and your worth isn't determined by whether they included you. You're valuable because of who you are, not because of who likes you. Encourage them to pursue genuine interests rather than just fitting in. Children with strong self-esteem developed through family connection and personal competence are better able to choose friendships based on shared values rather than desperately seeking acceptance from anyone. They're also more resilient when friendships inevitably have challenges. The ninth strategy is allowing your child to develop their own identity, separate from your expectations. Low self-esteem often develops when children feel they must be who their parents want them to be, rather than who they authentically are. When parents have rigid expectations about who their child should be, what they should be interested in, or what path they should follow, children learn that their authentic self isn't acceptable. Pay attention to whether you're encouraging your child's genuine interests and personality, or pushing them toward what you wish they were interested in. If your son loves art but you keep pushing sports because you were an athlete, you're communicating that who he actually isn't good enough. If your daughter is naturally introverted but you're constantly worried about her needing more friends, she internalizes that her personality is problematic. Teach your child to talk to themselves kindly, especially during difficulty. When they're being self-critical, ask, "Would you say that to your best friend who made the same mistake? What would you say to them instead?" Help them develop an internal voice that's encouraging and realistic rather than either harshly critical or unrealistically positive. Model self-compassion yourself. When you make a mistake, say out loud, "I'm being really hard on myself right now. Everyone makes mistakes. This doesn't make me a bad person, it makes me human. I'll learn from this and move on." This gives your child language and perspective for their own self-talk. Now let's talk about age-specific applications, because self-esteem building looks different at different developmental stages. For young children, ages 2 to 6, focus on unconditional acceptance, appropriate responsibilities, and mastery experiences with physical and self-care skills. Let them struggle with zippers, pouring milk, or building with blocks. Give them jobs that contribute to family life. Validate all emotions while guiding behavior. Avoid comparing them to siblings or peers. For school-age children ages 7 to 12, emphasize competence in multiple domains, not just academics. Ensure they have opportunities to excel in areas like creativity, athletics, relationships, or practical skills. Teach them to separate effort from outcome and self-worth from achievement. Help them navigate peer relationships while maintaining family as their primary source of belonging. Increase responsibilities significantly so they're genuine contributors to family functioning. If you're committed to raising children with genuine, lasting self-worth, who become confident adults capable of handling life's challenges, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We share research-based parenting insights every week that build the psychological foundations children need for lifelong well-being and success. For adolescents ages 13 to 18, self-esteem work becomes more complex as they're actively forming identity separate from family. Support their exploration of values, interests, and beliefs, even when different from yours. Give them increasing autonomy over decisions that affect their lives. Maintain connection while respecting their need for independence. Help them find context where they experience competence and contribution, whether through work, volunteerism, creative pursuits, or other activities. Also recognize that adolescent self-esteem naturally fluctuates more than in childhood due to rapid physical, social, and cognitive changes. What looks like low self-esteem might be normal developmental uncertainty about identity. The key is maintaining your steady belief in their worth and capability while they navigate this uncertain terrain. One crucial element across all ages is protecting your child from perfectionism, which is the enemy of healthy self-esteem. Perfectionistic children believe their worth depends on flawless performance, which is impossible to achieve. This creates chronic anxiety, fear of failure, and shame about inevitable imperfection. Combat perfectionism by celebrating mistakes as learning opportunities, emphasizing progress over perfection, and helping children develop realistic standards based on personal growth rather than comparison to others or impossible ideals. Finally, let's address what to do if your child already struggles with low self-esteem. First, understand that rebuilding self-esteem takes time and consistency. It wasn't built through single events, but through accumulated experiences and messages, and it won't be rebuilt overnight. Commit to applying these strategies consistently for months, not just weeks, and be patient with the process. Second, identify and address any specific sources of shame or inadequacy your child is carrying. Sometimes low self-esteem centers around particular areas like academics, athletics, appearance, or social skills. Have open conversations about what specifically makes them feel not good enough. Listen without immediately reassuring or dismissing. Understanding the specific beliefs driving their low self-worth helps you address them more effectively. Third, examine whether your family dynamics, school environment, or peer relationships are actively undermining self-esteem. Are there critical voices, impossible standards, or contexts where your child consistently experiences failure or rejection? Sometimes building self-esteem requires changing environments, not just working on the child. A child who's constantly compared unfavorably to high-achieving siblings, or who's in an academic environment that's chronically too challenging, or who's being bullied by peers, will struggle to develop self-esteem regardless of parenting strategies. Fourth, consider whether professional support might be helpful. If your child's low self-esteem includes symptoms of depression or anxiety, shows up as persistent negative self-talk despite your efforts, or seems rooted in trauma or significant life events, a therapist who specializes in children and adolescents can provide targeted intervention. There's no shame in seeking professional help. It's actually a sign of good parenting to recognize when additional support is needed. As we wrap up, I want to emphasize the most important principle underlying everything we've discussed. Your child's self-esteem is built primarily through their relationship with you and through genuine competence developed over time. It's not built through praise, awards, or telling them they're special. It's built through experiencing unconditional love, contributing meaningfully, mastering challenges, handling failure productively, and developing authentic identity. This means the best thing you can do for your child's self-esteem is focus on your relationship with them and on providing developmentally appropriate opportunities for genuine competence. When children feel deeply loved for who they are, not what they achieve, and when they experience themselves as capable through real-world contribution and mastery, self-esteem develops naturally and authentically. Remember that building self-esteem isn't about eliminating all struggle or ensuring constant happiness. Children need to experience difficulty, failure, and negative emotions to develop resilience and realistic self-assessment. Your job isn't to create a perfect life for your child. It's to provide the secure base, genuine opportunities, and supportive coaching that allows them to develop the internal conviction that I am worthy, I am capable, and I can handle what life brings. The relationship between self-esteem and life outcomes is well documented. Children with healthy self-esteem are more likely to take appropriate risks, pursue their interests, form healthy relationships, handle setbacks resiliently, advocate for themselves effectively, and experience overall life satisfaction. They're less likely to develop anxiety, depression, or engage in risky behaviors, seeking external validation. But perhaps most importantly, children who develop genuine self-esteem grow into adults who like themselves. They don't require constant external validation or achievement to feel okay. They can acknowledge both strengths and weaknesses without their worth being threatened. They choose relationships and opportunities based on authentic fit rather than desperate need for approval. They recover from failures and keep moving forward. This is the ultimate gift you can give your child, and it starts with the strategies we've discussed today, applied consistently with love, patience, and belief in who your child is becoming.